My name is Emily. I'm 36 years old. For most of my life, I believed my parents would always treat my brother and me equally. They told us that family was about fairness. They told us that everything they built would eventually be shared between their children. But what I learned years later was that some promises are only words until the moment they are tested. And when that moment came, I discovered that my parents had already chosen who mattered more. Growing up, I never wanted to believe that my parents had a favorite child. I tried to ignore the small things. When my brother Jason failed his first business attempt, my parents called it a learning experience. When he needed money, they found a way to help him. When he made mistakes, they said he was going through a difficult time. But when I struggled, I heard something completely different. You're strong, you'll figure it out. At first, I thought that was a compliment. I thought my parents trusted me. But over time, I realized being called strong often meant I was expected to need nothing. Jason was the child they protected. I was the child they expected to understand. For years, my parents talked about the family house. It was the home where we grew up. They always said it would stay in the family. My mother used to tell me, "One day, you and Jason will both benefit from everything we built." I believed her. I never expected a perfect split. I never expected more than my brother. I only expected fairness. But everything changed when my mother called me one evening and asked me to come over. Her voice sounded serious. She said my father, and she needed to discuss something important. When I arrived, Jason was already sitting in the living room. The moment I saw him there, I knew something was wrong. On the coffee table was a folder. My father picked it up and took a deep breath. "We made a decision about the house and our assets," he said. I looked at my mother. She avoided my eyes. My father continued. "We decided everything will go to Jason." For a few seconds, I thought I misunderstood him. I asked, "Everything?" My mother nodded. She said, "Jason needs more stability right now." I looked at my brother. He said nothing. That hurt more than the decision itself, because I realized he already knew. He had been sitting there knowing that my parents were about to tell me they had taken away the future I thought we would share. I asked my parents why they never talked to me about it. My mother gave me the answer I had heard my entire life. "Emily, you have always been independent." Those words stayed with me. Because what she meant was not that she believed in me. What she meant was that she believed I could survive being disappointed. I asked Jason if he agreed with their decision. He looked uncomfortable. Then he said, "I didn't ask them to do this." I replied, "But you didn't stop them either." The room became silent. That was when I realized this was not only about my parents. It was about years of everyone accepting the same pattern. Jason received help. I received expectations. My parents said they were not choosing favorites. They said they were simply helping the child who needed them more. But I wanted to know something. When does helping one child become hurting another? When does understanding become accepting unfair treatment? That night, I left their house feeling like I had lost something much bigger than money. I had lost the belief that my parents saw me the way I saw them. For weeks, I barely spoke to them. They called me ungrateful. They said I was making the situation about money. But it was never about money. It was about years of feeling invisible. Then, a few months later, I discovered something that changed everything. My father had kept old financial documents in a storage box. While helping my mother organize paperwork, I found an earlier agreement. It showed that their original plan was completely different. The house was supposed to be divided fairly between both children. There was even a note from my father saying that he wanted both Jason and me to have security. But later, that plan was changed. And the reason was the same reason I had always known. Jason had problems. Jason needed another chance. Jason needed saving. Again. I sat there holding those papers and realized something painful. My parents had not changed their minds because of one emergency. They had built their entire life around protecting my brother from consequences. And they expected me to quietly accept the cost. I finally confronted them. I placed the documents on the table and asked, "When did you decide that my future mattered less?" My mother started crying. She said, "That is not what we think." I answered, "Maybe it isn't what you think, but it is what your actions showed me." My father admitted that they were afraid Jason would fail without their help. I asked him, "And what about me?" He had no answer. Because they never worried about me failing. They only worried about Jason. If your own parents gave your inheritance to your sibling because they believed that sibling needed more help, would you forgive them, or would that change your relationship forever? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about family boundaries, betrayal, and consequences, subscribe to Real Stories of Women. After that conversation, I stopped fighting to be chosen. For years, I had tried to prove that I deserved the same love and respect. But I realized something. I could not force people to value me. I could only decide how I allowed them to treat me. My parents eventually apologized. It was not a perfect apology. They still believed they had done what was necessary. But for the first time, they admitted that they had spent years protecting Jason while expecting me to carry the emotional weight. My relationship with Jason changed too. We had a difficult conversation. I told him that I was not angry because he received help. I was angry because everyone acted like I should not be hurt by losing something that was promised to me. He admitted he should have spoken up. That did not fix everything overnight. But it was the first honest conversation we had in years. Before that conversation, I spent years trying to convince myself that I was imagining the difference between Jason and me. There were small moments that seemed harmless on their own. When Jason wanted to start a business, my parents helped him buy equipment. When I wanted to take a course to improve my career, I was told to save my own money because I was already responsible. When Jason moved back home after another setback, my mother said, "He just needs time." But when I needed support during difficult moments, the answer was always the same. "You are the strong one." I used to be proud of that. Now I understood that being the strong one often meant nobody noticed when I was hurting. The hardest part was watching my parents celebrate every small achievement from Jason while treating my achievements like expected behavior. I bought my first home without their help. I built my career without asking them for money. I handled problems quietly. And somehow, those things became the reason they thought I needed them less. After finding those documents, I also found an old message from my father to a financial advisor. In it, he had written that he wanted both children to feel equally secure. Reading those words was painful because it proved something I had always hoped was true. My parents did love me. But love without fairness can still leave deep wounds. Today, I no longer measure my worth by what my parents leave behind. A house can be sold. Money can disappear. But the lesson I learned will stay with me. Family is not proven by promises. It is proven by choices. My parents thought they were saving my brother. But they never realized they were teaching me that I had to save myself. And in the end, losing their approval was painful. But losing myself would have been worse.